This is a Lodge cast iron pan. Lodge dominates the market. They've been casting these things for 125 years. They're made in the USA, and they can be had for only 20 or 30 bucks. If you saw my last Skillet video, you know how much I love cast iron. It's the greatest cooking service available to mankind. So I should love Lodges, right? But I don't. I have a big problem with these modern Lodges. They're rough. Cooking on these things is like cooking on a hot gravel road. Compare that to a vintage skillet like this Wagner. Glass smooth surface. In my experience, a smooth surface accepts seasoning better, is more non-stick, it's easier to clean, and it's simply more pleasant to use. So here is the surface of the vintage Wagner skillet, polished smooth by the factory many decades ago. Pretty uniform, looks about like you'd expect a smooth iron surface to look. Now let's compare that to the new-ish, about a year-old Lodge pan. Yo. Gross. See those ridges and valleys? You can see the oil globbed up in there, which I suppose goes towards the argument that a rough surface holds seasoning better, but in my opinion, doesn't actually result in a better cooking experience. And here's the pan that I'm going to actually be working on today. This one belongs to me, that one doesn't. This one is about 20 years old, also a Lodge, and it is a little bit smoother, either because of how they made them differently 20 years ago, or just because of 20 years of inconsistent use. You can see it's a bit in between, but still more similar to the rough new Lodge than the old vintage polished iron. Lodges weren't always rough like this. They used to be smooth, like their contemporaries Wagner and Griswold. But in the 1950s, Lodge decided to stop doing that final polish step in order to cut manufacturing time and costs. I guess it was the right decision because Lodge is still a thriving business where Wagner and Griswold don't exist anymore. The other reason I've heard for the change is that they used to use a finer sand to create the molds for the pans to be cast in, and that they stopped using that sand because it was fine enough that it was hazardous to the employees who were breathing it in. You can buy brand new factory smooth skillets, but they're going to be expensive. Vintage pans can be expensive too, or hard to find. And so I'm in pursuit of the everyman solution, a little DIY. I'm headed to my parents' property deep in the Oregon woods, where my father has more tools than I do, and I'm gonna polish the f*** out of this pan. Here we are. Bet that was fast for you. This big red box in the wilderness is my father's workshop and sanctuary that I did, in small part, help to build over the years. He may not exactly keep it neat and clean, but a lot of cool stuff comes out of this workshop. First, my father walked me through the different tools available for me to use.
Keys right here, so those just fall out if you're not paying attention.
What's this tool called?
Surface contour tool. This is what you've been using to produce your videos most recently?
Yeah, this is my main camera. It's got a gimbal on it, so you can move the image around however you want.
Okay.
But of the four, I really only ended up using and needing 3 of them. Hopefully you'll already have access to these 2, because if you have to buy them, well, unless you're going to use it for a lot more than this, you may as well just buy a new smooth pan. You do have access to these tools. All you really need is a few pieces of different grits of sandpaper. The first tool that I placed against the iron was an angle grinder. With an 80 grit disc. It took me a while to get the hang of working with the contours on the inside of the skillet, but after a while I got the hang of it and I was able to get the rough work done. The flat interior skillet surface itself was pretty easy to work with, and to be honest, that's all you really would need to do. But I wanted it to look nice, and so I wanted to get the interior walls as well. Those walls were what took most of the time. Okay, let's go. Oh gosh, I have the hiccups. is going pretty well. The sidewalls are not very good, but that's okay because I don't cook on them, and I'm not trying to be perfect here. After I had the rough work done to my satisfaction, I busted out the circular sander. I started with 60 grit sandpaper, and the tool was doing pretty well, but this dust guard was really getting in my way.
Doesn't want to break.
And it proved itself quite tricky to remove. This is going pretty well, but I do think I need to remove this annoying dust guard, and I was given permission to remove it destructively, so that's what I'm going to do. Well, that was easy. If you're willing to destroy something, it's pretty easy to get it done. After the dust guard was off, this tool became a lot more useful, and I was able to use it on the interior walls as well. From 60 grit, I went to 80 grit, and then 120, and then 220. I think I used 2 pieces of 80 grit, but for every other grit, I only used 1 piece of sandpaper.
Okay, now I'm going to finish it off with the orbital sander here. I am using a respirator. Don't breathe iron dust, please.
Finally, I reused the 120 and the 220 grit sandpapers in this orbital sander for a last polish. Okay, I just made the final pass with 220 grit on the orbital sander. It is looking better than I expected to be able to do, to be honest. It's looking pretty good. Definitely not perfect, but I'm going to put some canola oil on now to protect the iron before I take it home and season it. Why am I filming you, you're wondering? Because I want your reaction.
Okay.
Bing.
Whoa. Whoa. Ooh. It's silver now.
Well, yeah, the seasoning is gone, so after I season it again, it won't be silver anymore.
So smooth.
Here she is. So let's take a look at this surface pre-seasoning. You can definitely see a lot of the little scratch lines in there from the sanding, but wow, what a difference from how it was before. Hi, baby. Glad you're here. Everyone can comment about how your disgusting little paws are all over the countertop. Just for reference, I also have this skillet that I use most frequently. It's a smooth vintage Wagner, and it's very well seasoned because I use it almost every day. Let's take a look at what the surface of this looks like. Dark. I'm not sure what we're learning from this, but yeah, looks darker. All right, on the lodge here, one thing I decided was that I'm not going to strip the factory seasoning from the outside because I like the contrast that it gives with this rough lodge factory seasoning, this very dark black, with however the interior is going to end up looking. And I'm going to put it through that seasoning process this week. If you want to see my whole seasoning process, how I strip and restore and season a cast iron from scratch, then watch next week's video. I also want to show you how the process did not remove all of the deepest pits. There's still some of the deeper pits like this one left in the iron. That's fine. It's not going to affect cooking at all. This isn't rocket science. It's cast iron cooking. On the sidewalls, there are a lot more of those divots. Again, totally fine, especially since it's on the sidewalls. Oh, there's a cat hair. Or maybe that's one of mine, I don't know. The most important thing left in this project is now seasoning. Now, if you want to learn all about seasoning, what it is, how to do it, how to strip an old pan and re-season it, subscribe and watch next week's video where I go through the whole process. But we're gonna skip right past that and just show you the final result here. This is my lodge pan, now smooth and completely seasoned. It's gained this beautiful color from the flax oil, and I'm excited to actually cook in it. I'll admit that right after the first seasoning bake, the seasoning was looking pretty splotchy, but it was looking dramatically better even just after applying oil after that first bake, before the following 3 cycles that I put it through. And now I think it looks kind of beautiful. Let's get a micro view of it though. Here we go. Okay, not that different. A hair already. Not that different actually from before it was seasoned. You can see there's splotches of color, but I have to say it's probably true that more seasoning actually collects on rougher iron than smooth iron like this. I predict that that won't result in a better cooking experience and that this will be a delight to cook in, especially after more seasoning builds up over months of cooking in it. And over that time, it will also darken as well. But only one way to find out.